We have compartmentalized our lives. Our spirituality is here. Our everyday life is there. We have not put the bridge between the two. So if we want to build a good society, godliness, because godliness encompasses all the virtues that make you human. We are created in the image of God. We should not try to make God into our image.
Turn around. Turning point. Yeah. He's a turn around. Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Albert Ocran. Welcoming you to Ghana's foremost developmental program and that place where the greatest minds in the world converge. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with MTN Ghana, the Enterprise Group, and the Ghana Growth Program, a collaboration between MasterCard Foundation and Springboard. So we push on with our big conversation we call Thinkathon, the power of ideas. We are bringing together leaders from various areas of endeavor to ask ourselves the question that sparked this whole virtual university 17 years ago. How do we build the good society? How much land does a man need? What does it take to call ourselves a people who are on track to live the life that God intended for us? I have just the perfect guest for this conversation today. Somebody I've looked forward to meeting in the studio here for quite a while, the Presiding Bishop of the Methodist Church of Ghana, Most Reverend Johnson Kwabena Asamoah-Gyadu. So, thank you so much for coming.
Most welcome. I'm privileged to be here.
It's a blessing, sir. It's a blessing.
To learn from you.
No.
I'm going to interview you.
So it will just be an honor to explore some of the thoughts. So we set out on this virtual university to answer a question about the good society. As someone who has written extensively, done work in academia, and now heading a denomination that is very, very established and well known, what would be your thoughts about the good society? How should it look and feel like?
That's a loaded question. Thank you very much for hosting me on your program today. It's a great privilege.
Thank you, sir.
Because what the media does is open the world to your ideas and your thoughts and so on. You also learn. So, but to your question of a good society, the first thing that comes to me is a question: what is good? Very recently, I had the opportunity of preaching at the Martyrs' Day service of the Ghana Bar Association, celebrating the lives of some high court judges and so on who were murdered in the heady days of Ghana's revolution. And I did mention that we need to take the words of the prophet Micah seriously. Micah 6:8. It's a question: what does the Lord require of you? And he talks about justice, mercy, and so on. And I did try to address the very question you were asking about a good society. But good society begins with a good. It is people who make society. So you can't have a good society without good people. If something is good, it builds up, it brings joy. But from a human point of view, anybody who is good is selfless. In other words, in their thoughts and their actions, the decisions they make, the steps they take, they always think about how to make the other better. So you look at things from the other person's viewpoint. Anything that is good brings joy. Anybody that is good is selfless. And although this is a general conversation, you and I are coming to this from a faith perspective. And I think Paul outlines that from Philippians chapter 2, from verse 1, verse 3 and 4, where he says that we should not think of ourselves better than the others. We should always consider others better than ourselves. If you tell that to today's Christian, it may not make sense. But that's how to build a good society. To have good people, and good people think of the other. And they are not selfish, they are selfless. If you are thinking of how to make the situation better, and I'm thinking of how to make the situation better, it gets better. In other words, in our relationships, we should avoid being transactional. If you find any marriage that you admire, it means that people are not transactional. I'm husband, I'm wife. These are my duties, these are my responsibilities, and so on. That's transactional marriage. But in a marriage that is good, whether you are a man or a woman, you are thinking of how to make the relationship better. In other words, you are sowing into it and you reap what is good.
Prof, what you describe, in essence, is the life of Christ.
It is.
If that is the life of Christ, why would that be strange or unwelcome to the Christian today? How did we get here?
We got here because we didn't pay attention to the paradigm that Jesus laid down for us. Let's take leadership. The paradigm of leadership that we have embraced, including Christian leadership, is the paradigm in which the leader must be patronized, must have access to the best of everything, must be one who is not criticized, not challenged, and so on and so forth. So we forget that, if I may go back to scripture, every time we go to church these days, we are praying the same prayer that James and John prayed. If you look at the tone of the demand or the request, they went to Jesus and said, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. That kind of request, that tone, does not even allow for the master's discretion. And that's what we have become. That's what we have become. So whether we are talking about leaders in public office, pastors, husbands, wives, school teachers, the first question we ask is not, how can I make it better? The first question we ask, even if it's silent, what is in this for me? To the point where, when you are selfless, people think you are selfless because you are getting something from it. So they are not paying attention to the new paradigm. They are paying attention to, what is he getting from this? You see. So we have, and at the end of that conversation, Jesus said to them that the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his ransom, his life as a ransom for many. In the midst of COVID, I was sitting in my living room. This was the very few early weeks of COVID, and watching television, CNN, listening to news. And the Easter period, the Passion Week, is the period in which a lot of tourists go to Jerusalem. And here was CNN in Jerusalem with the streets empty, shops closed, and everything. And something spoke to me. What is God telling the world? So I got up from my seat and went to my study and started typing anything that came to me. And at the end of the writing, I got a manuscript called Christianity in the COVID-19 Era.
Did you publish it?
I published it. Lockdown periods from Hosanna to Pentecost. And it struck me that anytime God wanted to do something spectacular and teach humanity a lesson, there was lockdown. Right from the Old Testament. You can say Adam and Eve were locked down in the garden. You can say Abraham was locked down in tents. You can say that the prophets were locked down before they had their revelation. You can say that Jesus was locked down in the wilderness. You can say that on the eve of the crucifixion, he was locked down with his disciples. And that's when he taught them one of the greatest.
Will you throw in the upper room,
everything?
The day of Pentecost?
I'm going to come there.
Okay.
So, and if you want to look at the lessons of life, look at lockdown periods from Hosanna to Pentecost. In the lockdown before the crucifixion, two things happened. The washing of the feet of the disciples and the institution of the Lord's Supper. And they both have to do with leadership. Because the Lord's Supper has to do with sacrifice. The washing of disciples' feet has to do with service. But today, the paradigm we have chosen is the paradigm of getting other people to wash our feet. Just last week, I told the ministers of the Methodist Church that I am not impressed. They can do it if they want, but I'm not impressed when I see a pastor physically washing the feet of the congregation. I have never done it, and I'm not likely to do it. Because if you want to wash people's feet, serve them, respect them, spend and be spent on their behalf. Don't go and collect water once a year with towel and wash their feet, and then the rest of the year insult them when they challenge your actions.
So you see it as a superficial cover up.
Exactly. That's what it is. That's what it is.
This reliance on optics, this reliance on, the young people call it settings.
Public impressions.
Yes. What is the origin of it, and how does it, what are the implications of glorifying that one beyond what really matters that is often not seen?
I think it's human. Sometimes we forget that the fundamental theological teaching on being human, on the human being, is that basically we have what you would call a fallen nature. And that fallen nature has to be redeemed. You see? So if you don't allow your fallen nature to be redeemed, then you will, your options in life will always be inconsistent with the divine agenda. And that's why I gave you the example of James and John. We want you to do for us whatever we ask. Peter did the same by trying to stop Jesus from going to Jerusalem, you see. And unfortunately, Judas couldn't recover. I remember giving a talk to a men's fellowship, and one of them asking me, if the Bible prophesies that somebody will betray Jesus, why do we blame Judas for doing it? And I said to him that the Bible said Jesus was going to be betrayed, but never mentioned the name. But if you read the story carefully, Judas could not bring his weaknesses under control. And anything that you can't control will end up controlling you. Look, what brought us to where we are, this fallen nature that I'm talking about, is because Adam and Eve could not control their senses. You have been put in the Garden of Eden, and the instruction from God was dominated. They were even the couple who named all the creatures. Then you allow something you are supposed to dominate to come and ask you a question about something you should know. So Eve's sense of hearing was compromised by listening to a creature she should be commanding. And once one of them, the sense of hearing, or whichever one is compromised, the rest will crumble. So her sense of hearing was compromised. Then the sense of sight. When she saw that it was good for food, between seeing and good, there's smell. Because it's not just the sense of sight, but also the sense of smell of abenkwai or ngatenkwai or nice stew. And then the sense of touch takes a bit more effort, took it, and then it. That story contains how all the five senses were compromised. And as I'm saying, anything about you that you can't control, if you don't control your sense of smell, it will lead you astray. And that is the downfall of a lot of leaders. They enjoy gossip. And people make decisions based on unverified information.
The question is why?
Because we are human. Because we have a fallen nature. You see, the natural reaction of you and I, if somebody says something bad to you, is to tell them off. Somebody who has his sense under control will be restrained. You see, it fits into all the causes of the problems that we have.
You describe Christianity sometimes as a nuisance.
It's become a nuisance. We have made it. The Christianity is not a nuisance. We have made it into a nuisance.
By virtue of the practices that we sometimes...
An interpretation.
Yes.
Because,
help us talk about that.
Yes, God made us in his own image. But we want to make God in our image. And that's where the struggle is. We want God to fit into what we think and the way we do things. That's why a pastor can invite a political leader. Instead of telling the political leader what is right and what they must do and what is wrong, they will rather let them lay down and call God's blessing upon them. I'm not saying don't pray for them. I pray for political leaders all the time. But when things are wrong, let them know. We patronize them because of what we get from it. It's the spirit of covetousness. Whether you know this or not, I don't know. But it's very worrying that Christian leaders fight over each other to find space around political figures. You see, because of what we think we'll get from them, we fight. Right? Fight. So we are covetous, we are selfish, and everything. And because of that, we aren't able to build a good society. I was teaching at a class once, and normally I'll teach a bit, and then to make the class lively, I will start telling stories, personal stories, things I have seen around, and things I can learn from, or we can all learn from. So I try to make the class interesting. And one day I was sharing a story, and one of the students at Trinity said to me, "Well, as for you, that number people, as for you, that number people." I said, "Hey." And I told them that, my friend, there's no corner of Takrady I do not know.
But they didn't know your background.
They didn't know. I told him that I attended Fijai Secondary School. I sold things on the streets of Takoradi until secondary school Form 3. I have sold candies, sugar cane, sponge, donuts. I don't know the English name for achomo.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst things to sell.
Why?
They break.
Yes.
And so when they break, and I used to sell around Princess Cinema, Prempeh Cinema, in Takoradi, Police Park. And when they break, then the customer determines how long the achomo should be. So they will take a few pieces and put them together on those days we used to wrap them with newspaper. So they will put them there. And sometimes the piece is longer than the original.
Standard.
So by the time you have finished selling the things, you go home.
And the account doesn't balance.
Exactly. And now you get a beating. But see, today, I look back. And one of the things I cherish is hard work.
So would you say that what you went through makes it easier for you to wrap your mind around themes like sacrifice, like service, like servant leadership? Would you say you have a natural proclivity based on your experience and your exposure?
Let me tell you a question that a student asked me once. He asked me, Prof, if you have to live your life again, is there anything you do differently? I said, not much. Not much. Because what my parents took me through today will be considered child abuse. But I know what it has done for me. I grew up in a simple home. I remember I did my PhD in the UK. I have a brother who lives in the US, and the first day I called him to say I've defended my thesis, he started crying on the phone because he knows where we have come from. See, and as I talk to you today, I still wake up at 4:30 a.m. every day. Because in those days, even without an alarm clock, I have to wake up at 4:30 to go and sell chewing stick. You get the best market for about 4:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Come back, get ready for school. Return in the afternoon. That time it was more in an afternoon. I didn't attend the sort of nice school that you attended. International school. So come back home, get something to eat, go back, barefooted, close at 4, come to collect sugar cane, go to Police Park to sell if there's a march. If there's no march there, run quickly to PWD Park and look at the distance.
Yeah.
And we did all this barefooted. In my adult years, I'm no longer selling anything, but I have learned what it means to work hard. You see, so at a certain level in life, you couldn't tell the difference between somebody like me with a very humble background and somebody who's a middle class home. Because I tell people, in the midst of all the ups and downs, my father gave us two things. We are talking about good society.
Yes.
My father gave us two things. He didn't have money. He didn't have status. I had to sell to help the family economy. But he gave us two enduring values. One, godliness. And two, education.
Godliness and education. Yeah. I will give the Most Reverend Professor Johnson Kwabena Asamoah-Gyadu a chance to catch his breath for a minute while I go on this break. When I come back, these two enduring values of godliness and education, how can we leverage them to transform the family in our parenting, the business in our organizations, the church in running our churches, and on the wider society our nation to become the good society. This is Springboard, your virtual university, and this is our anniversary series called Thinkathon, the power of ideas. Can we envision the Ghana we want to have? And by the way, which Ghana do we want to have? Prof says, let's focus on godliness and education, timeless values that can transport anybody from any background, including PWD and selling of Achimo.
That's right.
To become the person that God meant for them to be. Please don't go away. We'll be back shortly.
Right.
Still, Misaka, and Nemum was a summer brabo, and it can afford swab.
Misaka pensions, Carol.
Misaka order Sika.
Misaka insurance.
Misaka loan.
Momo Fogusuri echumaden, diaboye nyina ye sika ho ban. Se NTN ana momo jumayeni befrewa or the 0244 300,000 ene befrew. Na numpo orimbitsaw one time password ana se upin code enti wonso ye wa femu je na ma weni na ho na wonsa enka omomo.
No stress. Submit your insurance claim online in just seconds on the Claims Express portal. Simply upload your national ID, cost estimates, pictures, and more to get started. Submit online, track progress, and get paid fast. Skip the paperwork and get back on the road with ease. Visit claimexpress.enterprisegroup.net.gh for easy claims and quick payouts with absolutely no stress.
Enterprise, your advantage.
Watch out for a brand new series to celebrate the 17th anniversary of Springboard, your virtual university. It's dubbed Thinkathon, the power of ideas. This series aims to bring together modern Ghanaian thinkers from business, education, the clergy, and governance to discuss vital issues to promote intellectual leadership and suggest solutions to Ghana's development. With host Reverend Albert Ocran.
Action for me now. Countdown. Let's go.
In this episode, we will consider what happens when vision surpasses sight. We will also explore the extraordinary story of overcoming adversity with Ephraim I. Oraka Tete, a visually impaired scholar from Pram, who made history as the first student in 10 years to graduate from the University of Ghana with a perfect 4.0 GPA.
I suffered from a sickness known as Steven Johnson syndrome. Now, what that does is I took a drug for malaria. So I had malaria and wanted to cure the malaria, but the content in that drug rather caused me to fall sick.
On Nkrumah's birthday, 21st September, we reimagined Ghana's democracy and development with Yao Nsako, a former corporate titan who turned fierce critique of broken systems, including what he calls the Santa Claus democracy.
Today, in your village, somebody born into a madhouse, can they become Reverend Albert Ocran in one lifetime? That's the question we must ask ourselves. And if they cannot, then what we are saying is that we have built a Santa Claus democracy in which the poor will remain poor, give birth to the poor, and their poor children will keep giving birth to the poor.
Don't miss any of these episodes on Springboard, your virtual university, on Sundays at 7 p.m. on Joy 99.7 FM and Springboard channel on YouTube. On Joy News, it's at 9 p.m. It is Thinkathon, the power of ideas.
Learn something new every week and be inspired by innovations, impact, and success stories of individuals making strides in the agricultural, agribusiness, technical, and vocational skill sectors on Ghana Grows Ejuma with Arabo Kumsin and Yabitha. Join us this and every Thursday on Facebook at 7 p.m. at Ghana Grows, also at Comfort Ocran A and at Albert N.E. Ocran. On Fridays at 4 p.m. on Joy 99.7 FM and on Sundays at 5:45 p.m. on TV3. Ghana Grows is an initiative of MasterCard Foundation in partnership with the Springboard Roadshow Foundation. If you are a young person and you want to be a part of our various interventions, call or WhatsApp Ghana Grows call center on 0308 255 775. Follow us on all our social media handles. Ghana Grows Ejuma. Hope Day.
Welcome back to Springboard, your virtual university, and to this incredible conversation with Most Reverend Bishop Johnson Kwabena Asamoah-Gyadu, the Presiding Bishop of the Methodist Church of Ghana, helping us to understand how far we've come in our quest for the good society, what corrections we must make, and he's been opening up how we got here. In this segment, we'll be looking at where do we go from here. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with MTN Ghana, the Enterprise Group, and the Ghana Grows Program, a collaboration between MasterCard Foundation and Springboard. Our media partners, Joy 99.7 FM, Joy News Television, and the Ghana Grows channel, or the Springboard channel on YouTube. Let me remind you of the thoughts of Billy Graham that say the greatest legacy one can pass to one's children and grandchildren is not money or material things accumulated in one's life, but rather a legacy of character and faith. I'm going to come to you shortly on that, Prof. I know it's something you are very passionate about. But let me remind you of the Enterprise Advantage tip for today. What should I do if I lose a loved one at home? And then Enterprise Insurance says, contact the deceased medical doctor and the Ghana Police Service. If the cause of death is unknown, the police will issue a coroner's papers signed by a magistrate, and then that authorizes the autopsy to be done. You can contact Transitions for guidance in a situation like that, and the number to call is 030-263-4777. Email info@myenterprisegroup.io. Enterprise is definitely your advantage. The Ghana Grows call center to call or WhatsApp to find out more about this exciting journey of young people in agriculture, agribusiness, and ATVET is 030-8255-775, and that is the number to call. If you also want to find out back editions of your virtual university, just subscribe to the Springboard channel on YouTube, and you will find exciting back editions as well as this one that I'm having here with Professor Asamoah-Gyadu. The business we want to showcase for today is Wawolo Pineapple Juice. We just want to give them a push so their business can do well. That's our little contribution to the good society. So you can find Wawolo Juice, pure, refreshing, and bursting with Ghana's natural, famed Sugarloaf Pine sweetness. And the number to call them all is 0266 8682 161. Encourage young people doing things in agriculture, agribusiness, and ATVET, and we can build a good society that creates jobs for our young people. Prof,
yes, sir.
Back to our conversation and something you said about James and John Zebedee.
Sons of Zebedee.
Yeah, with their mother.
Sons of Thunder.
Yeah, with their mother in tow was a certain selfishness in their approach to life, their request to Jesus, their prayer. And you ended by saying, today, in 2025, we still have the what's in this for me mentality, not just in our individual lives, but also even in the ministry. I want us to interrogate how your original thought that the good society is made up of people who think of the bigger good rather than being selfish. Yeah. And then also you pushed on to talk about the two enduring values your father imbibed in you, godliness and education. Bringing these together, selflessness, godliness, education, how can we build better families?
How can we build better families? I mean, I learned that your background is also in sociology, just like me. I studied psychology, sociology, and religion before I moved on to theology. And you will learn from sociology that the basic unit of society is the family. It begins with marriage and so on. But let me use a different narrative analogy in arriving at an answer. In the past 3 to 4 weeks or so, if not more, a certain conversation has been taking place in the country, in the media, in society, everywhere, regarding the use of unearned titles. I think it is symptomatic of what we have become as a people. We want to reap where we have not sowed. So it's not simply a matter of people using titles they don't deserve or they have not worked for. It's symptomatic of a culture of entitlement in which we want to lay claim to things that, in a very simplistic way, there is nothing wrong with having an honorary doctorate. I have an honorary doctorate. A couple of years ago, I was invited to speak at the commencement of one of the largest seminaries in the US, Asbury Theological Seminary. And then they asked me whether I'll be willing to take an honorary doctorate from them. I didn't think twice, and I said yes. Now, I wouldn't have accepted the invitation to speak if I didn't know Asbury was a credible institution. Before that, I had also had invitations from other institutions and even other organizations, either to meet in Dubai or to meet in some place to take an honorary doctorate and so on. And I know these things go around. It's become a business. Why a leader, a politician, a pastor will fall for such offers, I do not know. We are a very, very, very religious society. At bottom, religion is about affirming our common humanity. In fact, we are human before we are religious. And this cuts across almost all the religions. We are human before we are religious. So to build a good society, we have to discard this obsession with vainglory. That is what those two gentlemen wanted to do. And they used it, the word, so that when you are in your glory, one of us will sit on your left, the other on your right. Not only did they not think about their other colleagues, but they wanted a shortcut to fame and power. Even young people killing their friends. We had a case in Kasua. Yesterday, I read one where a farmer had taken the son's wife, 6-year-old son's, cut off his head for money rituals and so on. You know. And we may be discussing titles, unearned titles, but we don't realize that it is only a symptom of a fundamental problem. And the fundamental problem is that we want to reap where we have not sown.
Pause there for a second, Prof, and let me take you back 17 years to the very first edition of Springboard of Virtual University. We read the writings of a Russian philosopher called Leo Tolstoy, who told a simple, who told a simple, and that's why I like philosophy, told a simple story about a peasant farmer called Pahom, who, like everybody else, wanted a better life. And so, in his pursuit of hard work, whenever he heard about another contractual arrangement that would help him have a better life, more land as a farmer and not be a peasant, he moved on to that one. And the more success he enjoyed, the quicker he wanted it. And the quicker he wanted it, the more he was willing to break the rules. Even if this one meant cheating someone a little, it was okay because it gave him more power, more accomplishment, more fame, more fulfillment. Until the ultimate one, he heard about the land of the Bashkirs, where you could literally pay just 1 ruble and then have endless land. He says, wow, don't they know the value? He goes there, and long story short, he's told, encircle as much land as you have by sunset and it's yours. The more he encircled, the more he saw new ones, he kept going and going and going, and then eventually he couldn't get back on time for sunset. He was drained of all his life. He fell down, seeing the so-called riches, and then he died. This penchant for literally grabbing everything just to satisfy our desires as you describe, how do we tamper it? How do we stop it before, like Pahom, it literally implodes in the individual, in the family, in the church, and in the nation?
When I was elected Presiding Bishop, my official residence wasn't ready. So I had to leave Trinity. And the liminal period between leaving Trinity and going to the official residence, we moved into our own home. My wife and I built. And when we moved there, I didn't say this to anybody, just thought to myself. I said, we started life with nothing. My father didn't have anything. He didn't have a house. He didn't have anything. So to come to a point in life where I can move into a home that we have built that is not on mortgage or anything tells me what godliness and education can do. I don't like people to get me wrong. When I talk about education, I don't mean getting to university. I mean building yourself up wherever you find yourself. The last quarter, I have spent time with Methodist students on Cape Coast University campus, Legon University campus, and Cairn University campus. And my message to them is, see being in the university as an opportunity. It doesn't matter the program you have been offered. See it as an opportunity. Build quality relationships. And I told them, if you find that the friendship you have, the conversations are around vain and carnal things, drop the friendship. There's no law that says that you must stick to a friend permanently. Choose constituencies where you think the people are godly, have good conversations, are thinking about their future, even if it is a relationship, a male-female relationship. It is not every one of them that must be carried into marriage. So if the young man in your life is asking for sexual favors at this stage or leading you along some lines, taken away from your studies to go and club and so on, drop the relationship. If you are an apprentice, apply yourself fully to it. If you are in agriculture, apply yourself fully to it. Spirituality is the translation of godliness into everyday living. But what we have done is that we have compartmentalized our lives. Our spirituality is here. Our everyday life is there. We have not put the bridge between the two. So if we want to build a good society, godliness, because godliness encompasses all the virtues that make you human. We are created in the image of God. We should not try to make God into our image. So if you have godliness, you have compassion. At the heart of everything that Jesus did is compassion. Compassion, the root of that word, but the Greek, is when you kill an animal. I don't know whether your mother slaughtered fowls or those days. When you slaughter the fowl, it's not today that we eat mortuary fowls, you know. This one they catch and kill. You go and buy in the market and kill. Now, when they have slaughtered the animal, whether fowl, goat, sheep, the entrails, yemwadie, that's where the word compassion comes from. And every time Jesus saw somebody in need,
he was moved with compassion.
Moved with compassion. It just said, it wasn't superficial. It was from the inside. One of the things that have disturbed me about political leadership is when a politician is campaigning and has the audacity to say, when we come, we'll collapse your business. How can collapsing other people's businesses be a campaign message and grassroots people who need work are clapping? You may be on different sides of the political spectrum. We can't all vote for the same person. But is this a message to carry on to a platform that when we come, we'll collapse your business? And Ghanaians don't criticize and challenge such messages?
So you're calling for a certain mindset that queries
exactly
what people say and say.
We have to be critical.
Okay.
We have to be critical of ourselves. You see, we have to be very, very critical. So by godliness, I mean cultivating that spirit of compassion that thinks of the other. And as I said at the beginning, a good society is the one in which the people are good. You can't have a good society with bad people. So everyone doing their part. And education is not simply going to study texts, important as that may be. It's constantly improving yourself. You know, trying to look for opportunities.
Let me translate that to the workplace. And in Colossians 3, I like Paul's description, and the Message translation says, apart from saying that you're from verse 22 to 26 there about your actual employer is God.
Exactly.
So even if you think you don't like where you're working,
that's right.
The Message translation in the last verse is, being a follower of Christ does not exempt bad work, does not exclude or excuse bad work. Let's comment.
That's a good translation.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I was like, nobody renders it so classically.
Yeah.
Let's talk about professing Christ and then literally damaging our workplace or doing sub-quality work in the name of they are not paying me well, they are not treating me well. Let's talk about it.
That's where you and I come in. Because being a pastor is not simply about preaching and comforting people. I tell my students all the time that when I ask you to describe the ministry of Jesus, we always limit it to three things: preaching, teaching, and healing. But Jesus did much more than that. Okay. I tell them that Jesus gave his life three dual emphasis. The first dual is preaching and teaching. You can't separate the two. When you are preaching, you are teaching. When you are teaching, you are preaching. The second is healing and deliverance. Intervened in crisis. The third is pastoral care and counseling. Jesus counseled people. Go and do likewise. Go and sin no more, and so on. In other words, what he tried to do was to tell us to translate belief into action. Look at the number of scandals involving young people. Young people who are maybe working in financial institutions or wherever they find themselves. The fundamental mentality is to get as much as they can. Some people even go as far as wanting to travel without knowing what they are going to do. And I was surprised when somebody I knew with a good pharmaceutical business sold the business and traveled without knowing what he was going to do. Unfortunately, you and I, pastors, feed that wrong mindset, that greed, that obsession. And we stand in front of young people and tell them that if by age 25, 30, you haven't signed your first 1 million cedi check and so on, you are a failure and so on. So you have 25-year-olds thinking that they have failed in life. By what standard? By what measurement? I do not know. Even in traditional society, now people pay money to be given chieftaincy positions. But look at sociology. Look at chieftaincy. In those days, to be a chief, the qualities did not include personal wealth. It included people who are community-oriented, who are not drunkards, who are responsible, and so on and so forth. Even in those days, when people are allowed to marry more than one wife, it must be somebody who has cared for his children. Today, it is wealth that comes first. Material wealth. See? So if you begin to do that, and we are appointing people to lead public institutions with very, very questionable backgrounds in business, in life. Look at the last how many years, since 1992, we had only two political parties. Let me point out a trend to you and tell you that that is one of the reasons why this country is not moving forward. Both the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress have had very high-profile people come under investigation for all kinds of corrupt behavior. Anytime their government come to power, these are the people who are giving public office. I'm not suggesting they are guilty, because I don't know. But if I were a president, at least I will let the investigation reach a conclusion. Then I know whether this person is credible or not. But the way we are going about it, we are politicizing crime. If I'm accused of abusing the finances of my office, and I'm being investigated, and a new government comes, my government comes to office and says, I'm clearing you, I'll say no. I'll say no. Let's conclude the investigation and let me be cleared by the system, not by executive fiat. And that is what you will do if integrity is important for you. So I'm not accusing anybody of anything. This is not a political platform, but I'm saying that that approach to prosecution is hurting this country. If you do that for a long time, people will come to believe that it doesn't matter what you put me through. When my party comes to power, I'll be exonerated. You see, so let's translate godliness into practical everyday action. We are in church, let's limit it to Christianity. Let the pastors be forthright that wherever you find yourself, your greatest witness is your lifestyle. Even the apostles, their lives witness before their proclamation. Jesus the same. What makes us think that our proclamation is what must be assessed and not our lifestyle? Let my pastors learn how to be modest and stop making demands on the wealth of members. Let pastors stop using their personal wealth as an example. I told a group of young people don't believe anybody who has made all his wealth from people's tithes and offerings. Believe those who have made their wealth from actually practically working on issues. Because we were brought up in a ministry that valued modesty. Pastoral ministry has never been about material things. It's been about service. If God blesses you, we thank him. But don't stand in the pulpit and say, I have 10 houses. I have a swimming pool in my house and so on. You know, I was on a flight once, and before we boarded, I saw a very important friend of mine, a pastor and so on. So when we boarded, I was looking for him. And I went into business class, and he wasn't there. So I came back to economy because I like to walk in the long flight. And I saw him asleep. So when he woke up, I went back. And I said, oh, so I thought you would be there. I said, Prof, that's not how I spend my money. I know that he could have traveled business class. There's nothing wrong with traveling business class, but that's making a point. He says to me that when he travels economy, he is able to see a lot of his friends and so on. So occasionally he does business as I do, but he just enjoys being in the economy class to see Ghanaians who have trouble coming home because he works with people as pastor.
And he feels no pressure from anybody to do what he doesn't want to do.
You know, so I learned a lesson from that the fact that you have opted to have an 18-bedroom house should not be the standard for me. Because here at Trinity, I lived on campus for 30 years. I think for the last 20 years of that time, every bungalow I lived in, 2 of the rooms were permanently empty. And now it's even worse because I live in a Presiding Bishop's residence with about 6 or 7 bedrooms because of the position. But the bedrooms are permanently empty. See, the point I'm trying to make is that somebody can have the resources and decide to live in a castle. Another person may decide this is not important. So don't use your standard to judge everybody or for everybody. And the young people must have a certain gift. It's the gift of discernment. The gift of discernment. And if you have the gift of discernment, you don't follow blindly.
Billy Graham, in his thoughts that I shared with you, Prof, says ultimately, it's a legacy of character and faith.
You did say that.
Your father made the same point about godliness and education. And you have made the same point right from your opening remarks to your conclusion about being selfless, about weighing things and letting the ethos of Christ be at the center of your thinking rather than what others are doing. Prof, you know what? We could do this forever. Most Reverend Professor Johnson Kwabena Asamoah-Gyadu is the Presiding Bishop of the Methodist Church. He's for years headed the Trinity Theological Seminary, and I'm sure that if I veered into theology, that would be another hour of conversation about its necessity for the work that we have committed ourselves to do. But he's been telling us some ideas about the good society, hinging mainly on godliness, on education, on selflessness, on character, and on the type of faith that reflects Christ in everything that we do. Wherever you are, I'm sure listening as an individual or a family, listening as a business, listening as a church, and listening as a nation, there is something you are carrying away about the good society and how we can build it. This has been Thinkathon, our anniversary series, brought to you by Springboard Ratio Foundation in partnership with MTN Ghana, the Enterprise Group, and the Ghana Growth Program, a collaboration between Mastercard Foundation and Springboard. Our media partners, Joy 99.7 FM, Joy News Television, and the Graphic Communications Group, as well as the Springboard channel on YouTube. My name, as always, Albert Ocran saying, God bless you, and God bless you.
He's a turn around. Turning point, yeah. He's a